Hello students, welcome once again to Accounting 1329, Payroll and Business Tax Accounting. This is Dr. Mercado speaking, and we are continuing with Chapter 5, Unemployment Compensation, and in this wonderful day, we are going to be covering Problem 514A. Okay, let's jump over to the problem. Now the problem is fairly long, okay, so make sure that we look over the information carefully. So here we have Marlene Grady and Pauline Monroe, who are partners engaged in operating the G&M doll shop, which has employed the following person since the beginning of the year. So we have Hoffman, which is a general office worker, gets paid $1,700 per month. Drugan is a saleswoman, gets paid $15,000 per year. Beater, who's a stock clerk, gets paid $180 per week. Egan, that's the delivery man, gets paid $220 per week. And Lynn, that's cleaning and maintenance, gets paid $160 per week. Both Grady and Monroe are each paid a weekly salary allowance of $950. Now, the doll shop is located in a state that requires unemployment compensation contributions of employers of one or more individuals. The company is subject to state contributions at a rate of 3.1% for wages not in excess of $8,100. Okay? We have to compute each of the following amounts based upon the 41st weekly payroll period for the week ending October the 14th. We're going to do one at a time because we have quite a bit of items that we have to resolve for. Now, letter A. What is the amount of FICA taxes, both OASDI and HI, to be withheld from the earnings of each person? Okay, refer to Chapter 3. And then we have the list of Grady, Monroe, Hoffman, Drugan, Beater, Egan, and Lynn. And we have to calculate the OASDI and the HI tax. Okay. Now, before we even get to that, we need to be able to classify, are these employees subject to our FICA taxes? Okay. Now, let's start off with Grady and Monroe. The first sentence says that Grady and Monroe are partners. So as we've read, partners are not taxed under FICA. Okay. So Grady, not taxed. I'm going to put here partner, not taxed under FICA. Okay, so none of the money that he receives, he gets paid $950 a week, is not taxed. The same thing for Monroe. Marlene and Monroe are both partners. None of their earnings are taxable for FICA purposes. Okay, now let's look at Hoffman. Hoffman gets paid $1,700 per month. We have to calculate the weekly pay. To calculate the weekly pay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply that by 12 months. Okay. And then that's going to give me 1,700 times 12, 20,400. And I'm going to divide that by 52 weeks. Okay. So we can be able to get the weekly pay. So my weekly pay will be $392.307. Now, because that third digit is a 7, it's greater than a 5, I'm going to round up to 392.31. Okay. 392.31. Okay, let me make this a little bit smaller, that way it fits. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now, Drugan. Drugan gets paid $15,000 per year. Okay, so we've got $15,000 per year. I'm simply going to divide that by 52 weeks. So I can be able to get the weekly pay. Okay, so 15,000 divided by 52 weeks, that gives me a weekly pay of $288.46. Beater, they already give you the weekly pay, so we don't have to do any calculations. We just copy that over, 180. Egan gets paid $220 a week. And Lynn gets paid $160. So the only ones that we had to really calculate our weekly pay for was for Hoffman and for Drugan. Okay, and I put the calculations there. Okay. Now, we need to, they ask us to calculate the OASDI and the HI tax. Okay. Now, before we even go into calculating the OASDI and the HI tax, we need to make sure that none of our employees have gone over my OASDI limit. Okay. Remember, OASDI has a cap. HI does not. So we pay taxes on all of the earnings that an employee earns under HI. But for OASDI, we do have limits. If you refer back to Chapter 3, you will find in Section 3.1e our rates and our limits or bases, okay? So for OASDI, an employee is going to pay 6.2% on the first $147,000 of earnings. So the maximum tax for OASDI purposes is $9,114. Once an employee reaches that cap of 147, they no longer have to pay any OASDI taxes. Now for HI, there is no limit, so the employee and the employer will always have to pay that 1.45% on all of the earnings. There is no maximum, okay? So please go back and refresh your memories over chapter 3. So I just wanted to bring you here so we can remember that my cap is for OASDI, okay, $147,000, okay? So now we need to make sure that none of my employees go over that, okay? So what am I going to do is I'm going to calculate my year-to-date pay as of last pay period. We are currently processing the 41st payroll run. So I want to know how much did my employees make before this payroll, okay? So I'm going to get my weekly pay and I'm going to multiply it by 40 pay periods, okay? Because we are currently in the 41st pay period. I want to know how much my employees earned as of last paycheck, okay? So, if we see here, okay, as of the last paycheck, only including the employees that pay FICA taxes, these are the amounts, the year-to-date earnings of my employees. And my employees are getting paid very little. So none of them are even close to reaching that cap of $147,000. Okay. This is how much they've paid. They've gotten paid as of the 40th paycheck. Okay. So it's going to be this dollar amount plus what they're getting paid this week. Okay. Now that I feel comfortable, I just wanted to run my numbers. Now that I know that none of my employees are going over my cap of 147, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply my weekly payroll. So I'm going to multiply my weekly payroll of $392.31 times my 6.2%. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to round. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my calculations. That way I don't confuse you with an Excel. Okay. I'm just going to run them in my calculator. That way you can see what I'm doing. So 392.31 times 6.2%. That will give me 24.323. That third digit is a 3. I'm going to keep it at 24.32. Be very careful on your rounding, okay? Because a lot of students forget to round or they round incorrectly and that causes them to be off. 392.31 times 1.45%. That gives me 5.688. Now, because that third digit is an 8, I'm going to round up to 5.69, okay? And I'm doing this, that way you all can see my calculations and how I'm rounding, okay? The next employee, my weekly pay is $288.46 times 6.2%. That gives me 17.884. That third digit is a 4. I'm going to keep it as is. Remember, the rule is if that third digit is between a 0 and a 4, you keep that second digit as is. If the third digit is a 5 or greater, then you round up by 1. Okay? So in this case, it's a 4, so I'm going to keep it at 1788. Okay? For HI, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get the 288.46 times 1.45%. And that gives me 4.182. That third digit is a 2, so I'm going to keep it at 4.18. So we're going to do this for all of our employees. 180 times 6.2%, 1116. Okay. And then we're going to have 180 times 1.45%. That gives me 261. Okay. Next, we have 220 times 6.2%. That gives me 1364. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and get 220 times 1.45%. Gives me 319. Okay. Um, Let me just answer this message real quick. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and continue with Lynn. Lynn gets paid 160 times 6.2%. That gives me $9.92. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and we are going to do 160 times 1.45%. That gives me 232. Okay. Okay. So those are my totals. Okay. So these are the amounts that are going to be withheld from the employee's paychecks. Okay. These amounts respectively. Okay. So number A says, what is the amount of FICA taxes to be withheld from the earnings of each person? So these are the amounts. Okay. Now for our two people up here, our two partners, they are not going to be withheld anything. Okay. Why? Because they're partners and they are not withheld any FICA taxes. Okay. So these are the amounts that are going to be withheld from each of my employees. That is requirement A. Okay. Now requirement B says, okay, what is the amount of the employer's FICA taxes for the weekly payroll? Okay. So the amount for, and let me move this down here. It's over here. Paste. Okay. I don't know why I think I inserted some columns and it threw my numbering off. Let me just fix that real quick because it's driving me nuts. Here we go. There we go. Okay. So letter A is how much are we going to deduct from each of my employees' paychecks? These are the dollar amounts right here. Okay. I'm going to highlight these. So those are the amounts that we're going to take out from each employee for OASDI and for HI. Now, letter B. What is the amount of the employer's FICA taxes for the weekly payroll? Okay. So for the employers, we are looking at the total. Okay. When we calculate our employer's taxes, we look at the total. How much did my employees earn in total for the week? Okay. So I know that my employees earned 1,240.77. Oh, sorry about that. 1,240.77. That is my total weekly earnings. And my OASDI rate is 6.2%. Okay. So my total weekly earnings of 1240.77 times 6.2% gives you $76.92774. Because that third digit is a 7, I'm going to round up to 76.93. Okay. Okay. For HI, we're going to pick up the entire amount of our earnings, 1,240.77, and we're going to multiply by 1.45%. Okay. Times 1.45%, and that's going to give me 17.991. And we're going to keep it at 17.99 because that third digit is a 1. So my total FICA taxes that the employer has to contribute is $94.92. Okay, the total FICA, $76.93 for OASDI, $17.99 for HI. Okay, so my total FICA, $94.92. Okay, so if you compare how much is going to be withheld from the employee's paycheck, we're off by, on the OASDI by a penny. Okay, and the HI is the same. Do not assume that the same amount, the same totals that the employees are going to be deducted will be the same amount that the employers is going to be deducted. The employees are calculated based on weekly pay. Okay, the employer is calculated on the total payment for all of the employees. So you always have to pick up the total wages for that week. Okay. Letter C. What is the amount of state unemployment contributions for the weekly payroll? state unemployment contributions. Okay. Now, okay, let's look at state unemployment. It says here the company is subject to the state contributions at a rate of 3.1%, okay, for wages not in excess of $8,100. So for this particular state that the employees are working under, we're going to pay taxes up to $8,100. Once the employee goes above $8,100, then we're not taxable for that amount, okay? So we only pay taxes up to $8,100. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to see, do I have any employees that have not reached that $8,100 cap yet? Okay, so Hoffman is over. They no longer have to pay any pseudo taxes for Hoffman. Drugan is over my $8,100. Now Beater has earned before this paycheck $7,200. This paycheck of $180 will put him at $7,380. That is still below the $8,100 cap. So that means that all of the wages for Beater, okay, are going to be taxable for Suda, the entire 180. Why? Because Beater still has quite a bit to go. Beater, my cap is $8,100. Beater has earned $7,200 as of last paycheck. So Beater still has $900 of earnings that are going to be taxable. So the 180 from this week will definitely be one of them. Okay, so the 180 from this week will be taxable. So after this week, he still needs to pay taxes, pseudo taxes on $720. So all of the wages for this week will be taxable for pseudo purposes. Egan has gone over the $8,100 mark, so Egan will no longer have to pay any pseudo taxes for him. Okay, and Lynn has earned $6,400. My cap is $81, so that means that the wages for Lynn are also going to be taxable. Okay, these are the only two employees that have not reached the 8,100 cap for pseudo purposes. Okay, so that means that $340 are taxable for pseudo purposes. Okay, so my pseudo tax is going to basically be your $340 times the rate provided in the problem of 3.1%, and let's see what that gives us. $340 times 3.1%, $10.54. Okay. That is the amount that is going to be taxable for pseudo purposes. So in this section, you have to figure out which of my employees has not gone over the cap of $8,100. Only those employees will be taxed the 3.1%. Okay? So we need to look at the year to date. If the employee has earned more than $8,100, we don't have to worry about them. Only about the ones that have not reached that mark, and we need to figure out what amount of this week's earning is subject to tax. Okay, so that is letter C. Letter D, what is the amount of the net pseudo tax on the payroll? Okay, the amount of the net pseudo tax on the payroll. Remember, pseudo is only paid on the first $7,000 of earnings. Once they go over $7,000, then the employer no longer has to pay any more pseudo taxes. So I'm going to look at my year to date and I'm going to find, do I have anybody that has not gone over the $7,000? Yes, Lynn. Lynn has not gone over the $7,000. Lynn has only earned $6,400. The cap is $7,000, which means Lynn is. We still have to pay taxes for Lynn on the next $600 of earnings to take him up to the $7,000. So this week, Lynn earned $160. So we're gonna have to pay pseudo taxes for Lynn. Okay, on the $160. Okay. He is the only employee that has not reached the $7,000 mark year to date. So that means that this is the only employee we're going to pay pseudo taxes on for this pay period. Okay. So now that we've done that, we can calculate the tax. Remember, the taxable earnings are $160. My pseudo rate is 0.6%. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and run the math. 160 times 0.6%. That would give me 96 cents. Okay? Okay. So we've already calculated the amount of withholding that we're going to take. This is the amount that we're going to take away from each of the employees' paychecks for OASDI and HI. Remember, the employer has to match that. They also have to contribute the same percentages. These are my calculations based on my total weekly earnings. So this is the amount that the employers are liable for FICA taxes. Letter C is my Pseudo taxes. Remember my cap for Pseudo in the problem. Okay, we have Pseudo taxes. Let me put a note here. Pseudo taxes on the first, in this particular problem, $8,100. Okay, so if the employee has gone over $8,100, we don't have to worry about it. Okay, the only two employees that have not gone over $8,100 are Bean and Jitter. Okay, these two are the only employees that have not gone over $8,100. So those are the only two employee salaries that are taxable. Okay, for FUTA, my cap is $7,000. We need to look and identify, have any of my employees have gone over it. All of my employees have gone over $7,000 except Lynn. So we still have to pay FUTA taxes on Lynn on the $160 that he made this week. Okay. Letter E. What is the total amount of the employer's payroll taxes for the weekly payroll? Okay. So we're gonna get that. Okay. From letter B. My FICA OASDI was $76.93. My FICA HI from letter B is $17.99. So I'm picking up these two numbers right here. My Pseudo tax, my total Pseudo tax is $10.54. Okay, and I got that from here. And my FUTA tax is 0.96 cents. Okay, so my total payroll taxes is $106.42, and we add those together. $76.93 plus $17.99 plus $10.54 plus 0.96, $106.42. That is my total payroll taxes. Okay. Please be very careful. Analyze the information. Make sure that you calculate your year-to-date total. That will make it so much easier not only to identify the OASDI taxable earnings, but the Pseudo and FUTA taxable earnings. Remember, Pseudo has a cap, and that is provided in the problem. FUTA will always be the first $7,000 of earnings. Okay, so I hope you find this video useful. It's kind of step by step. That way, you could follow along and see how all of my calculations are done. Okay, the key is to read the problem carefully. Be very careful on your rounding. Please make sure that you complete all of your assignments, your quiz, your homework before the assignment deadlines. Please make sure that you refer to your course syllabus. That way you don't miss your deadlines and you earn the most points possible. Remember that 2 attempts are provided and I keep the highest grade. So please use that second attempt as practice if you didn't do very well on the first attempt. Not only for practice, but also to try to improve your overall grade. Okay, so that is it. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and until next time. Bye-bye.